What if what you call chance were merely God's perfect timing revealing itself? You are watching this video now, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but exactly at this moment, because something invisible within you has reached the degree of maturity necessary to comprehend what will be revealed. It wasn't YouTube's algorithm that brought you here. It was cosmic synchronicity responding to the silent call of your soul. Nothing arrives before its time. Nothing is ever late. There is an invisible clock in the heart of the universe that doesn't measure seconds or minutes, but degrees of consciousness, levels of readiness, depth of interior openness, and that clock has just struck your hour. Paramahansa Yogananda taught, when the disciple is ready, the teacher appears. But here's what few understand. It's not that the teacher was absent and suddenly appeared. The teacher was always present. What changed was you. Your vision cleared enough to finally see him. So it is with every message that reaches you, with every person who crosses your path, with every circumstance that seems coincidence, but is actually divine confluence. This video didn't appear to you by accident. It was waiting, patiently, in the vast ocean of available information, until the echo of your inner yearning reached the exact frequency necessary to magnetize it to you. And now that it's here, now that you're hearing these words, there is only one certainty you need to engrave in your heart. You are ready. What you have been calling delay is merely disguised preparation. Every day that you waited for that love, that opportunity, that healing, that awakening, none was wasted. All were necessary to forge in you the capacity to receive, hold, and honor what will come. God never says no. He says, not yet, because in His infinite wisdom, He sees that you haven't yet developed the spiritual muscles necessary to carry the weight of the blessing being prepared. Think of a fruit ripening on the tree. If you pick it green, no matter how much you leave it in artificial sunlight, it will never have the sweet taste of fruit that ripened in its own time. There are internal alchemical processes that cannot be rushed, only honored. Your soul is that fruit. It ripens according to invisible but infallible laws. The sun of experience, the rain of suffering, the wind of trials, everything conspires to transform acidity into sweetness, hardness into softness, potential into realization. There was a man who for years prayed for enlightenment, for a complete opening of consciousness. He practiced with dedication, but nothing seemed to happen. Frustrated, he sought out a master and complained, "I've been practicing for so long and still haven't received what I asked for." The master took him to the garden, showed him a rose bush with a closed bud, and asked, "Why is this rose not open?" "Because it's not yet time," the man answered. "Exactly," said the master. "And you, in your arrogance, want to force the bud of your consciousness to open before the interior spring arrives? The rose trusts in time. Why don't you trust?" In that moment, and the man understood that his impatience was itself the last obstacle, and upon releasing it, something began to blossom. Establish a new relationship with waiting. Stop measuring your life by the human clock that counts empty minutes. Begin to perceive by the divine clock that counts degrees of transformation. Each morning, upon waking, declare with profound serenity, "Everything that is truly mine will come at the exact moment when I am ready to receive it. Honor it, and use it for the greater good." Throughout the day, when anxiety whispers to you that you're late, that you've missed opportunities, that life has forgotten you, breathe deeply and respond, "What is mine is never lost. It is merely being refined in the invisible until it shines with perfection. Because the suffering you're crossing through now is not punishment. It is the sacred fire that is removing impurities, strengthening you, preparing you to sustain the weight of the glory that approaches. When you align with divine rhythm instead of fighting against it, something miraculous happens. Everything begins to arrive with sweetness, without effort, without loss, because finally you stop blocking with resistance what always wanted to flow to you. Synchronicity is the secret language through which the universe converses with those who have learned to listen. It's not luck, not coincidence, not chance. It is intelligent design manifesting precisely at the moment when consciousness reaches the necessary frequency to recognize it. When the energy of your profound intention vibrates at the same frequency as the divine purpose that designed you, something inevitable happens. The universe conspires to bring people, circumstances, information, opportunities. Everything converges to meet you exactly where you are, at the exact moment you can absorb them. Imagine that you are a radio station. The universe constantly transmits all possible frequencies, music of all genres, news from all places, messages from all dimensions. But you only capture what you're tuned to at the frequency your dial is adjusted to in this moment. When you change internally, when your consciousness expands, when you release old patterns, when you finally learn the lesson you were resisting, your internal dial turns to a new frequency. And suddenly, that book you needed appears in your hands. That person you needed to meet crosses your path. That video you needed to watch emerges on your screen. Not because they didn't exist before, but because now you are tuned to receive them. A woman spent years trying to find her true calling. She tried careers, studied diverse areas, but nothing resonated deeply. She prayed, asking for direction, but the heavens seemed mute. Until one day, after crossing through painful loss that forced her to question everything, she was walking aimlessly in a bookstore when a book literally fell from the shelf at her feet. It was about a subject she had never considered, but upon reading it, something awakened with such intensity that she knew, this is it. It has always been this. Years later, established and fulfilled on that path, she understood that book had always been on that shelf. But only after she passed through the fire of loss, which dissolved her mental rigidity and opened her heart to possibilities that the ego had rejected, was she finally receptive to see what had always been there. Begin to live as a spiritual detective hunting synchronicities. Pay attention to what some call coincidences, but which are actually love notes from the universe saying, look here, this is important. When a song plays repeatedly with a message that resonates in you, don't ignore it. When you find the same phrase in different places on the same day, stop and reflect on what it's telling you. When a person crosses your path unexpectedly, recognize that nothing is unexpected. There is invisible design orchestrating everything. Keep a notebook of synchronicities, noting these magical moments. Over time, you will perceive patterns. You will see how the universe was guiding you even when you thought you were lost. And then you will understand profoundly. Human time runs in a straight line, always anxious, always rushed. But divine time blossoms in a spiral, maturing, expanding, returning to themes at deeper levels, until finally total understanding unfolds at the perfect moment, not 1 second before, nor 1 second after. If this video appeared to you today, it's because something within you asked for it, perhaps not with conscious words, but with yearning of the soul that echoes in dimensions that the waking mind doesn't reach. There is a part of you that already knows why you're here hearing these words. It recognizes the truth being mirrored back to itself. And there is another part, the part that still doubts, that still questions, that is still afraid to trust. And it is precisely this part that most needs this message. Perhaps your soul is tired of waiting, tired of praying without seeing visible answers, tired of working without harvesting apparent fruits, tired of loving without receiving the love you so desire. Or perhaps your mind is desperate to understand why certain doors remain closed, why certain people left, why certain dreams died. You want explanations, you want timelines, you want guarantees. But here is the liberating truth that scares and relieves you simultaneously. What is truly yours was never lost. It is merely being cut in the invisible, polished in dimensions you don't see, prepared with excessive care because it has immeasurable value. A rough diamond looks like just a common rock. Only after it passes through extreme pressure in the depths of the earth, only after it is cut and meticulously polished, does it reveal the light that was always latent. A sage asked an impatient young man, "Why do you complain about the delay if you still don't know what is being prepared for you? You ask for speed, but the universe is offering you perfection. You want to have now, but the divine wants you to be first, because having without being is eventually losing. But being first ensures that when it comes, you will know how to sustain it," the young man protested. "But I've already suffered so much. I've already waited so much." And the sage responded with devastating gentleness, "Exactly. And now you are almost ready, not because suffering punished you, but because it transformed you into one who can carry the blessing without destroying it or being destroyed by it." Do the exercise of the profound question. Sit in silence, close your eyes, place your hand over your heart, breathe until the mind quiets minimally. Then ask the wisest part of yourself, what in me is ready now to awaken that wasn't ready before? What understanding have I reached through waiting? What strength have I developed through difficulty? What compassion have I cultivated through my own pain? Don't force answers, just create the sacred space of the question. And then observe your life in the coming weeks. The answers will come, perhaps not in words, but in tangible changes, in opportunities that begin to emerge, in clarity you didn't have before. Because true awakening doesn't happen when external circumstances change. It happens when you change internally, and then, inevitably, mysteriously, miraculously, the exterior reorganizes itself to reflect the new you. In every profound spiritual tradition, time is recognized not as an enemy to be conquered, but as a master to be honored. In Vedic Hinduism, there is the concept of Kala, the time that both creates and destroys, that both sows and reaps, that is simultaneously the womb and the tomb of all things. More specifically, Karma Kala is the time that dissolves the knots of destiny, that patiently unravels the tangles we created through past actions, allowing us to finally see the complete pattern that was being woven. In Buddhism, there is paradoxical urgency. The present is the only portal of liberation, but this liberation cannot be forced. It ripens like fruit on the tree, according to natural laws that don't obey human anxiety. Buddha taught, do not dwell in the past, do not dream of the future, concentrate the mind on the present moment. But he also taught infinite patience with the process of awakening, because he knew that seeds of wisdom planted today may take entire lifetimes to germinate. Jesus, the Christ, revealed profound understanding of divine time when he said to those who pressed him, "My hour has not yet come." Even he, who was the incarnation of divinity, obeyed the celestial schedule established by intelligence greater than his personal will. There was a talented musician who composed his most brilliant symphony at 25, but when he tried to present it, no one understood. He became bitter, stored the score in a drawer, and swore never to compose again. 30 years later, by chance, he found those yellowed pages. He reread the composition with older eyes and realized it was good, but immature. It lacked the depth that only suffering and age bring. Inspired, he rewrote the symphony, adding layers he could only have composed after having loved and lost, dreamed and failed, waited and matured. When he finally presented the mature version, he was acclaimed as a genius, but he knew the truth. He wasn't more talented now than at 25. He was just finally ready, and the world was finally ready to receive him. Meditate on this liberating truth. The entire universe is a symphony in progress, and you are a specific note awaiting your perfect measure, not because you are insignificant, but because you are essential. Your entry needs to be at the exact moment for the music to complete its harmony. If you enter too early, you create dissonance. If too late, you lose the opportunity to contribute to the beauty of the whole. But if you trust the invisible conductor, If you stop fighting against time and begin to dance with it, if you recognize that you're being conducted by hands that see the complete score while you see only your line, then something extraordinary happens. You relax into waiting. Anxiety gives way to faith. Fear transforms into trust, and waiting itself, once so painful, becomes a sacred part of the journey, not just an obstacle to be overcome, but a lesson to be absorbed. Declare daily, I trust in divine timing. What is mine will come at the perfect hour. And until then, I perfect myself in the art of being present, grateful, and receptive. There is immense power in conscious repetition of spiritual truths. Not as a mechanical magic formula that manipulates external forces, but as an instrument of internal reprogramming that aligns your consciousness with superior realities. The exercise I share now is simple in appearance, but profound in effect. When practiced with total sincerity, it dissolves anxiety about the future and regret about the past, anchoring you firmly in the only moment that truly exists. Now, find a place where you can have 3 minutes without interruption. Sit comfortably, spine erect but not tense, hands resting relaxed on your thighs. Close your eyes gently. Allow the muscles of the face, especially around the eyes and jaw, to soften completely. Bring total attention to the breath. Don't try to change it. Just observe how it enters and exits naturally. Feel the fresh air entering through the nostrils, filling the lungs, then exiting warm, releasing tensions. Do this for a few breaths just observing. Then begin the mantra, synchronized with the breath. While inhaling slowly through the nose, repeat mentally with profound conviction. Everything arrives in perfect timing. Feel the meaning of these words penetrating every cell of your body. While exhaling slowly, repeat with equal conviction, I trust. And as you say, I trust, release physically. Let the shoulders drop a little more. Allow the belly to relax. Feel all the weight of your body being sustained by the chair or cushion beneath you. You don't need to hold anything. You are sustained. Repeat this complete cycle. Inhalation with everything arrives in perfect timing. Exhalation with I trust. For at least 3 minutes, ideally 10. The true power of this exercise is not in the quantity of repetitions, but in the quality of presence you bring. Don't repeat mechanically while your mind wanders, planning dinner or ruminating yesterday's argument. Each repetition should be done as if it were the first and the last, with freshness, with sincerity, with total surrender to the meaning. Because what you're doing is not convincing God of something, but training your own nervous system to relax from anxious survival mode and enter serene trust mode. When you practice this daily, preferably in the morning upon waking and at night before sleeping, something subtle but profound transforms. You begin to feel, in fact, not just think intellectually, that you are being cared for, that there is intelligent design guiding your life, that you can release obsessive control and still, actually, especially then, everything will flow better. Faith ceases to be forced belief and becomes lived experience. And when faith becomes experience, the impossible becomes natural. Because true faith is the repose of the soul in the infinite lap of God. Here's the revelation that simultaneously humbles and liberates. What you have been desperately seeking was already around you all along. The answers you begged for, the opportunities you cried asking for, the love you judged impossible to find, all were present, available, awaiting only that you become receptive enough to perceive them. It's not that the universe was denying you, it's that you didn't yet have eyes to see, ears to hear, heart open enough to receive. Think of someone learning a new language. At first, when visiting a country where that language is spoken, everything sounds like incomprehensible noise. People speak, signs communicate, life happens around them. But for one who doesn't master the code, it's as if they were in a deaf and mute world. But as they learn, as they practice, something magical happens. Gradually the noise transforms into words, words into phrases, phrases into meaning. And then they realized that people were saying profound things all along. Signs were offering useful directions from the beginning. It wasn't that communication was absent, it was that they didn't yet know how to decode it. So it is with the messages the universe constantly sends you. A man prayed for years asking for a sign from God, some confirmation that he wasn't alone, that there was purpose in his life. He expected something dramatic, voice from heaven, mystical vision, undeniable miracle. But nothing happened. Until one day, in conversation with a wise teacher, he complained that God seemed deaf to his requests. The teacher asked, "How many times today did your heart beat without you needing to remind it? How many times did your lungs breathe while you slept? How many casual synchronicities brought you to this conversation with me now?" The man began to enumerate, and as he enumerated, tears began to fall. He finally saw God had never been silent. He was shouting through 1,000 small daily miracles. But the man was so focused on waiting for something grandiose that he couldn't see the sacred woven into every ordinary moment. Practice the sacred art of reinterpreting your past. Look back at those moments you called failures, losses, things that didn't work out. Now, with temporal distance and some accumulated wisdom, can you see hidden purpose in what seemed like chaos? Did that job you didn't get open the path for a better opportunity? Did that relationship that ended free you for growth that wouldn't have happened if it had continued? Did that illness that scared you force you to change habits that were slowly killing you? When you begin to see the pattern, that what seemed like impediment was actually redirection, that what seemed like loss was actually protection, that what seemed like an end was actually a portal to new beginning, you finally understand the secret. Nothing was absent. The universe was orchestrating everything with impeccable precision. You just didn't yet have elevated enough perspective to see the complete design. And now that you see, now that you understand, you can finally let go, because you understand viscerally. You don't need to control. You don't need to force. You don't need to chase after. What is truly yours is already magnetized in your direction. You just need to become receptive. And receptivity is not passivity. It is an active state of openness, trust, and readiness. Spiritual understanding that doesn't translate into practical life is like a map you never use, beautiful to look at, but useless for reaching your destination. So, how to live concretely from this understanding that divine timing is perfect, that you are exactly where you need to be, that everything will arrive when you're ready. First, transformative practice. Stop measuring your life by the world's linear clock and begin to perceive it by the soul's spiral clock. The world says you should be married by 30, professionally established by 40, fully realized by 50. But the soul doesn't know these arbitrary timelines. Some souls need 10 incarnations to learn what others absorb in one lifetime. Some seeds germinate in weeks, others take decades. Stop comparing yourself to external timelines. Your journey is unique, singular, incomparable. Each morning, instead of waking anxious about everything you should have already conquered, declare with profound serenity, everything that is truly mine will come without forced effort and at the exact moment. I align myself now with my soul's time, not with the world's expectations. Second essential practice, develop acute sensitivity to the subtle signs the universe is constantly sending. That song that played randomly, but whose lyrics seem to speak directly to your current situation, don't ignore it. That phrase you read in a book, heard in casual conversation, saw on a billboard, always the same message appearing in different contexts. Pay attention. That casual encounter with a person you hadn't seen in years, precisely on the day you were thinking about them. Recognize the invisible design orchestrating. Keep a notebook of synchronicities or simply cultivate constant awareness. The universe is speaking to me all the time. I choose to listen. Because when you begin to truly listen, when you treat these signs not as coincidences, but as sacred communications, you enter into active dialogue with the mystery, and the mystery responds proportionally to your attention. Third practice that changes everything. Cultivate radical gratitude, not just for what has already arrived, but especially for what hasn't yet arrived but is on its way. This seems paradoxical, but it is extremely powerful. Instead of living in constant lack, I still don't have the love I want, I still don't have the ideal job, I still don't have full health, shift to anticipatory abundance. I give thanks for the perfect love being prepared for me. I give thanks for the true vocation that is maturing. I give thanks for the healing that is happening at levels I don't yet see. When you give thanks in advance, you're not lying to yourself or pretending you have what you don't have. You're recognizing the truth that everything already exists in potential, and your gratitude is the magnet that accelerates the materialization of that potential into concrete form. Fourth, liberating practice. Live with detached serenity that trusts but doesn't control. Do your part, plant seeds, cultivate the garden, remove weeds. But after doing what falls to you, release the result. Don't keep pulling up the seed to verify if it's growing. Don't become obsessed, monitoring every sign of progress or lack thereof. There is intelligence operating in dimensions you don't control. Your work is to align yourself, prepare yourself, remain receptive. The divine's work is to orchestrate circumstances, synchronize encounters, materialize potential at the perfect moment. When you respect this division of responsibilities, when you stop trying to do God's work while neglecting your own work, everything begins to flow with grace that seems magical, but is just natural law operating without the obstacle of your controlling anxiety. There's a turning point in the spiritual journey when you finally stop fighting against life's river and learn to flow with it, not as defeated surrender of one who gave up, but as embodied wisdom of one who finally understood. You don't need to swim against the current. You don't need to prove anything. You don't need to force things to happen. When you stop forcing and begin to flow, when you stop contracting in resistance and begin to expand in trust, something the masters call grace activates, and suddenly, mysteriously, miraculously, the universe conspires in your favor. In this elevated state of consciousness, the anxiety that used to wake you at 3 a.m. gives way to serene faith that allows you to sleep deeply, knowing you are being cared for. The fear of missing opportunities transforms into confidence that what is truly yours is never lost, only reveals itself at the right time. Waiting, once so painful that you avoided it at all costs through constant distractions, becomes a sacred period of preparation that you honor with gratitude, knowing you are being refined, not punished. A disciple asked the Master, "How do you remain so at peace even when nothing seems to be happening in your life?" The Master responded, "You say nothing is happening, but you're wrong. Everything is happening, just not in dimensions visible to your eyes. When the caterpillar is in the cocoon, motionless, appearing dead, would you say nothing is happening? But it is precisely there, in that apparent stillness, that the greatest transformation happens. The caterpillar is dissolving completely, its cells reorganizing radically, everything preparing the metamorphosis into butterfly. I remain at peace because I see with interior eyes what you don't yet see, that each period of waiting is a sacred cocoon where I am being transformed into a version of myself capable of flying. Live from this expanded understanding. You understand now, not just conceptually but experientially, that life never got your address wrong. It always knew where you live, always knew your true name, always knew exactly what you need and when you need it. You weren't forgotten, you weren't neglected, you weren't left behind while others ran ahead. You are exactly where you need to be at this moment, learning exactly what you need to learn, developing exactly the qualities you will need when what awaits you finally manifests. And when you live from this place of profound trust, something surprising happens. Things begin to arrive faster, not because you changed divine timing, but because you stopped blocking it with resistance, doubt, and attempts at control. In the right time, which you now understand to always be the perfect time, everything is fulfilled. And what you would call a miracle happens with the naturalness of ripe fruit that simply falls from the tree when it's ready. You don't need to pull. You just need to be positioned underneath with open hands, receptive, grateful, ready. We have reached the end of this revelation, but you are only at the beginning of a new way of living, no longer fighting against time, but dancing with it. No longer anxious about what hasn't yet arrived, but grateful for the process of preparation that makes you worthy of receiving. This video appeared to you today because it was today that you were ready, not yesterday, when the message would have been received by a still resistant mind. Not tomorrow, when it could be too late to apply what was shared. But today, in the sacred moment of openness, where finally you can hear, absorb, understand, and begin to embody this liberating truth. God's time is not your time, and thank heaven for that. Because if it were, you would have already received everything you asked for when you asked, the way you asked. And you probably would have destroyed yourself with premature blessings you weren't prepared to carry. But God, in His infinite wisdom that loves you more than you love yourself, waits patiently. He waits for you to develop deep roots before giving you heavy fruits. He waits for you to learn to swim before throwing you into the ocean. He waits for you to become one who can not only receive, but honor, multiply, and share what you will receive. And when finally you are ready, when you passed the tests without knowing you were being tested, when you learned the lessons without perceiving you were being taught, when you transformed through the very process of waiting, then the universe reveals itself. Doors that were locked open. People who were strangers become allies. Opportunities that were invisible become obvious, not because the world changed, but because you changed. And the world is always, always, always the reflection of who you are inside. Trust in divine timing. It is never late. It only arrives precisely when you are ready. If this message touched something deep in you, if you recognized the truth that your soul already knew but your mind had forgotten, then allow that recognition to transform into shared action. Leave your like on this video as a way of saying to the universe, yes, I accept, yes, I trust, yes, I am ready now to live aligned with divine timing, no longer fighting against it. Subscribe to this channel to continue receiving messages that arrive exactly when you need them, not by accident, but by sacred design that responds to the evolution of your consciousness. Share this video with someone you know who is fighting against time, who is impatient, who is losing hope because they think they're late or that they missed opportunities, because perhaps this is precisely the moment when they are ready to hear. And in the comments, share without fear. What synchronicity brought you here? What specific message in this video resonated most deeply in you? In what area of your life have you been fighting against divine timing and now choose to trust it? Your honesty, your vulnerability, your shared truth illuminates the path of others who walk a similar journey. Together we create a field of collective trust, each one releasing control in their corner, each one learning to dance with mystery instead of fighting against it, each one becoming a living witness that God's time is always, always, always the perfect time,